Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. And this chapter today is about the power of smell in marketing. So in this chapter, we're gonna explore about the sense of smell and its significant role in the sensory marketing. So first we come to the human nose and smelling. So the sense of smell is surprisingly developed early. In fact, the features can perceive scents in the worm from around 12 weeks, and the scents are critical for taste perception, potentially accounting for up to 80% of what we perceive as a flavor. So think of how different Coca-Cola and Pepsi would taste without their specific scents. Furthermore, the smell have a power influence on our cognition, emotion, and behavior. For example, the smell of freshly bread can unconsciously draw us to buy it. And historically, the scents were used to signify power and wealth, but now the sense marketing is used to attract customers. So when we come to the characteristic of smell, we have two dimensions here. The first one is about the physiological, and the second one is the psychological. So about the physiological, olfactory perception occur to an olfactory cell in the nose with the signal processed in the olfactory bulb and the cerebral cortex, and it takes about 400 million milliseconds to perceive a sense, which is slower than the visual processing at about 45 milliseconds. Additionally, smell is a synaptic sense. A combination of sense doesn't simply fire it up and it's creative to a new smell and trigger the stimulation, like the burning of the ammoniac and the genetic differences influence how we perceive sense. And secondly, about the psychological, the sense perception is immediate, triggering either a positive or negative response, and the sense memory are emotional and strong. Sense preference are the learned, not innate, influences by the experience like the mother's diet during the pregnancies, and a pleasant sense can improve the mood and cognitive function like the problem solving and creativity. So next we come to the olfactory perception and societal cultural. So the olfactory perception is how we receive and interpret the sense shaped by the environmental factor and social norms, and each individual has a unique background fingerprint. Furthermore, familiarity, intensity, and pleasantness influence sense reference. For example, a pleasant sense can become unpleasant if too strong, and considering the novel perfume, the main character manipulate people's emotion with the sense, highlighting their powerful and often unconscious effect. And additionally, women generally have a stronger sense of smell than men. The sensitivity can vary with the measure circle, and the cultural differences exist in preference. For instance, the smell of cheese perceived very differently in the Western Europe versus the Southeast Asia. And finally, it's hard to label smell like the tip or the nose effect, but the sense can trigger powerful emotional memories. So when we come to the smell in service environment. The service environment uses the scent to create a appealing atmosphere. For example, the casinos use the ambient scents to increase the slot machine use, and the ambient scents should enhance the overall environment, not be tied to specific products to influence the customer perception, behavior, and spending. So we moving to the last part is about the smell in brand and product. The sense I used to build emotional connection with the brand and product, and the sense in advertising and product evaluation can enhance the memory and influence purchase decision. So product sense correlates is important. Moreover, even service use sense to impart mood and behavior, as seen in the unique sense of Singapore Airlines, and the ambient sense should enhance the overall environment, not be tied to specific products to influence the customer perception, behavior, and spending. So moving on to the chapter 6 about the sensory principle for touch. So in the chapter, we're gonna focus on the sense of touch and its critical role in the sensory marketing. So now we come to the human body and touch things. So touch is essential for experiencing in the world and forming a connection with the brand and product, and the tactical marketing recognize the importance of both physical and virtual interaction, as demonstrated by Apple Store, which encourage the customer to touch and explore the product. So now we come to the characteristic for touch. It also have two dimensions, physiological and psychological. So touch involves the receptor in our skin and haptic system, which process the tactile information like the texture and pressure, and active touch, like touching something, and passive touch, like being touched, have differently psychological effect, influencing our emotion response. So now we move to the tactile perception and societal culture. So the tactile perception is how we interpret the touch, influenced by individual reference and cultural norm, and individual difference in needs for touch affect how much people want to physically examine product. Moreover, the cultural norms dedicated appropriate form of touch varying significantly across society, like the handshake, bow, and kiss. And men and women may have different tactile preference, with the woman open bowing touch more in the clothing or the clothing evaluation. Finally, touch carries symbolic meaning, expressing emotion like love, comfort, and power. So now we come to the human body and touch things. So touch is essential for experiencing in the world and forming a connection with the brand and product. And the tactical marketing recognize the importance of both physical and virtual interaction, as demonstrated by Apple Store, which encourage the customer to touch and explore the product. So now we come to the characteristic for touch. It also have two dimensions, physiological and psychological. So touch involves the receptor in our skin and haptic system, which process the tactile information like the texture and pressure, and active touch, like touching something, and passive touch, like being touched, have differently psychological effect, influencing our emotion response. And coming to the service and environment, the tactile element in service environment, like the store temperature, seating, influence customer comfort and behavior, and touching product increase customer confidence and purchase likelihood. Additionally, interpersonal touch from the staff can positively impact customer satisfaction and perception, as shown in the study in the bookstore and restaurant. And moving on to the last part today is the brand and product. The tactile cues are integral to brands or products' identity. Haptic touch focus on the material and domestic properties is crucial for the product evaluation, and product with the high tactile component, like the clothes, are evaluated differently than those with the low tactile component, like the packaged goods. And finally, public touch interact with other sense, especially vision, to shape the product perception. For example, the feel of the denim jeans is important in additional to look. And this also the end of my presentation. Thanks for your listening.